Welcome back to the deep dive. Round 2 of AFT Season 11 is done and dusted, and, well, if you've sent us your source material, the scorecards, the ladder, the fixtures, you already know we're looking at just a mountain of chaos.
Chaos is definitely the word.
We're talking about a round that was just defined by extremes. Huge scores, historic wins, and a ladder that's already been completely shaken up. So our mission today, as always, is to dig in and find the why. We're not just reading results, we're pulling out the stories that matter.
I mean, the vibe of round 2 is just explosive. You look across the data, and the theme is extremity. We saw, 38 goals in one game?
The GWS match, yeah.
And then that St. Kilda game was a 57-goal frenzy.
Yeah.
But those shootouts, they almost mask the real insight here, which is that the season is being shaped by teams who can deliver these massive, just soul-crushing victories.
And speaking of soul-crushing, we have to start with the biggest story, the one that, makes every other team take notice. We are talking about the Western Bulldogs and that historic upset over the Geelong Cats.
Well, I'd say it was more than an upset. It was a demolition, a complete demolition. The final score was Dogs 123 to the Cats 60. That's a 63-point margin.
63 points. And the context here is everything, isn't it? Because the source material is crystal clear on this. That was the biggest win ever recorded against the Cats at Cardinia Park.
Ever, yeah.
That ground is supposed to be a fortress, their fortress. And the Dogs didn't just win, the sources are calling it a massacre. That's a statement that just echoes,
Oh, absolutely. And you see the effect of it immediately on the ladder. The Bulldogs are only 1-1, but that one win, that single performance, has shot them straight up to 6th place.
With that percentage boost.
Exactly. A percentage of 137.58%.
Yeah.
They didn't just bank the 4 points. They banked a buffer that could be crucial later in the year. It's what separates them from being just another 1-1 team.
So the big question is, was this just a perfect Bulldogs game? Or did the Cats completely fall apart?
I think it's a bit of both, but you have to credit the Dogs. Their pressure was just relentless. They forced Geelong into mistakes you just don't see them make. They basically suffocated their rebound game completely. It was a tactical masterpiece.
Which is so interesting, because while the Dogs won with that sort of suffocating control, you had other teams getting huge wins with just sheer all-out attack, like Richmond.
Yeah.
The Tigers beat Brisbane by 50 points. 132 to 82. Similar huge margin, but a totally different way of getting there.
Right. What really stands out with the Tigers is that they just went to another gear in the second half. They piled on 10 goals to 3 after the main break. It wasn't a grind. It was a one-sided thrashing, as the source puts it. They just flicked the switch.
So that sets up this really interesting question for the season, doesn't it? You have these controlled percentage building wins like the Bulldogs.
Right.
And then you have the high-octane shootouts. You mentioned GWS beating West Coast, 120 to 99, 38 goals in total, but the margin was, a bit closer.
And then the absolute peak of that style was the St. Kilda game. That 57-goal barn burner. Saints winning 137 to 112. Hey, that's practically a basketball score.
It is, but the sources say that even in that frenzy, the Saints' pressure held firm. So it makes you wonder which style is actually built to last. Is it the all-out attack, or is it the controlled demolition that the Dogs pulled off?
Well, personally, I lean towards control. I mean, chaos is exciting, but it's hard to replicate every single week. The Bulldogs in Richmond, they won by dominating the basics. St. Kilda won a thriller, sure, but they also gave up 112 points.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
Not against a really clinical team, no. Your margin for error just disappears.
That's a perfect transition, actually. Let's move from the blowouts to the games that were, the opposite. The gritty, tough wins that showed real character.
The arm wrestles.
Exactly. And the tightest one of the round was that Collingwood-Essendon game. The Pies won by just 12 points, 85 to 73.
A spite fest, they called it. And when you see a team kick 19 behinds like Collingwood did, yeah, that tells you it wasn't pretty. It was just a brutal, high-pressure game. And for the Pies to kick the last 3 goals to seal it, for revenge, that shows a real clutch mentality, even if they couldn't kick straight.
And they weren't the only ones who had to dig deep. We saw a couple of other one-on-one teams get really important bounce-back wins.
Port Adelaide, for sure. After getting smashed in the showdown, they went on the road to Sydney and got a really tough win. Kicking away in that last quarter to win by 26 points, that shows some serious mental strength.
And Carlton did a similar thing against Melbourne. They won by 19 points.
Yep, a really clinical display from the Blues. The analysis said they just outran the D's in the second half. So that's not just grit, that's conditioning. That's having the legs to execute your plan when the game is on the line.
Meanwhile, you've got the quiet achievers, the Adelaide Crows, who just keep on winning. They beat North Melbourne by 29 points, and, well, the report said they just cruised to 2-0.
No fuss, no drama, just get the job done. And that brings us to the ladder, where that quiet efficiency really, really pays off.
It really does, because after just 2 rounds, you can already see this clear divide forming. You've got the 2-0 teams at the top, and then a group at the bottom facing some serious pressure.
So at the top, you've got 5 undefeated teams. The Crows, Hawthorn, Richmond, GWS, and St. Kilda. But Adelaide are the clear standouts.
Because of that percentage.
Because of that massive percentage. They're sitting at number 1 on the ladder with a percentage of 158.64%. That is just staggering.
To put that in perspective, Hawthorn is second with about 128%. So the Crows have already built themselves this huge cushion. It's the reward for not just winning, but winning big.
It is. And then you look at the other end of the ladder, and the pressure is really on. You have 5 clubs who are 0-2. Melbourne, Essendon, Sydney, North Melbourne, and Brisbane.
And Brisbane is in the worst spot of all of them.
Oh, easily. Dead last, rank 18, with a percentage of just 76.27%. That thrashing from Richmond really, really hurt them. A percentage that low. That's more than just losing. That signals there might be a deeper issue.
And we should just touch on how tight that middle part of the ladder is. You've got the Bulldogs at 6th, and then Fremantle and Carlton just clinging on inside the 8.
And right behind them are West Coast and Gold Coast, also 1-1. So you get this huge logjam of teams where one win or one loss in round 3 could swing them 4 or 5 spots on the ladder.
Which sets us up perfectly for this Tuesday, December 9th. Round 3 is just loaded with massive games.
The fixture maker knew what they were doing. The game of the round has to be the Western Bulldogs, fresh off that historic win, taking on the number 1 team, the Adelaide Crows.
What a matchup. It's the ultimate test of styles, isn't it? The Crows' clinical control against the Dogs' newfound firepower. If the Dogs win that, their premiership hype becomes very, very real.
But maybe the game with the highest stakes is what we're calling the desperation derby.
The battle of the 0 and 2s.
Exactly. North Melbourne, who are 17th, are playing the Sydney Swans, who are 16th. One of them has to get a win. The loser goes 0-3, and, well, it is a very, very long way back from there.
The pressure on the Swans especially must be huge. They're not used to being in this position.
It's immense. And then you've got these other games with fascinating form lines. You look at the last performance data, you've got Melbourne, who are 0-2, playing GWS, who are 2-0.
And for you listening, the LP data, that's just a snapshot of recent form. Melbourne's home record shows 2 losses in their last 2 games at the MCG. That's a worrying trend.
A very worrying trend when you're about to face a team like the Giants, who are on a winning streak and just full of confidence. Can the Davies possibly turn it around against a team that's flying?
And another one to watch is Hawthorn, sitting pretty at 2nd against the Geelong Cats down in 13th. The big question for Geelong is, how do they respond? How do you mentally recover from a loss like that and face the second-best team in the comp a week later?
If they lose big again, that Bulldogs game stops looking like a one-off shock and starts looking like a crisis.
Finally, you've got a classic top 8 shaper. Port Adelaide hosting St Kilda at Adelaide Oval.
Yeah, this is a huge one for positioning. If St Kilda wins, they stay right up there with the top teams. If Port wins, they jump back into the 8 and prove that their round 2 win was the real them.
So round 2 really drew some clear lines in the sand. You have the pace setters like the Crows and Hawks, and then you have a group in deep, deep trouble at the bottom.
The whole ladder feels volatile. Those huge percentage swings mean no one can really afford to relax.
All right, so here's the final thought we want to leave you with before round 3 kicks off. We saw the Western Bulldogs pull off a historic, season-altering upset against the Cats. So the question for you is, which of those 5 winless teams, Melbourne, Essendon, Sydney, North, or Brisbane, is the most likely to do the same thing in round 3 and deliver their own shock win to turn their season around?
It's a great question.
Thanks for deep diving into the data with us today. We'll catch you next time.